Are we entering a new golden era of Star Wars games? That is the question a lot of people are asking right now. LucasArts blessed Star Wars fans with a series of games in the early to mid 2000s that have become staples of Star Wars gaming. Just for context, 2005 alone had games like the original Star Wars Battlefront 2, Republic Commando, Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, and LEGO Star Wars, just to name a few. And of course, not to mention in the years prior we had games like Jedi Knight Jedi Academy, the original Battlefront, Kotor 1, Kotor 2, Jedi Outcast, again, just to name a few. These games were pretty much all within a 3-year period. Over the course of these few years, Star Wars games not only got the games we just listed off, but several other ones that just didn't hit the heights of the others. Some of them were good, then there was Super Bombad Racing. But this truly was the time to be a Star Wars game fan. Nothing encapsulates the potential of Star Wars games like this golden era did. But do we have a new golden era of Star Wars games on the horizon? We're going to dive deep into that in this video. Is there any truth to it, or is it just wishful thinking? Because it's been made clear lately that Lucasfilm Games wants to recapture the magic of this golden era of Star Wars games that many of us grew up with. But are they kidding themselves? Is it even possible to replicate the magic of this iconic era of Star Wars games in the modern day? Well, let's break it down. Now, before we get into the breakdown, we have a sponsor for this video. This video is sponsored by Frag Pro Shooter. Frag Pro Shooter is a shooter game designed for mobile devices with almost 60 million players. It's pretty simple. You collect characters and there are more than 80 to collect. You create your own deck, you build your own strategy, and you destroy enemy bunkers. The game receives frequent updates which include new characters such as Stella here, who has some really cool abilities. When it comes to game modes, I really enjoyed the street frag mode in this game. You and your opponent have the one target each, and it's a quicker mode for those of us who don't have much spare time. Now, I do have some free rewards for you guys, which can be found through the link in the description, so be sure to check Frag out through that link. And of course, a big thank you to Frag Pro Shooter for sponsoring this video. But now, let's get back to it. So the golden era of Star Wars games is something we have only briefly talked about on the channel before, but today we're going to be giving it the full attention. Lucasfilm Games have said several times in many different ways that this new era of Star Wars games is going to pay homage to the old days of Star Wars games, delivering various Star Wars games of different genres from a variety of different publishers. This is something that wasn't possible when EA held exclusive rights to make Star Wars games. Everything was through them and them only. And they only had so many resources and development teams at their disposal. But opening up the Star Wars license to other publishers allows for Star Wars games to have the quality and quantity of Star Wars games in the early to mid 2000s. Now, you guys know me, I don't hate how EA done their Star Wars games, as most of the games we've gotten, as they stand right now, are actually pretty good games. Battlefront 2015 was a solid but limited experience by its conclusion. Battlefront 2 went from being a disaster to arguably the biggest comeback king in the gaming industry, behind or in front of No Man's Sky. Jedi Fallen Order was universally praised and was up there in terms of Game of the Year nominations, and its success warranted a sequel. And Star Wars Squadrons was a decent smaller project, with its only real flaw being it just appealed to just not very many people. So in terms of the games we got, EA's tenure has actually been pretty good, but where the problems come from is the games that we didn't get. Cancelled Star Wars game after cancelled Star Wars game has been a problem since EA acquired the exclusive license. EA have actually cancelled more Star Wars games than they've released, and some of the cancelled projects sounded very promising, so it's fair to say, despite the highs and lows, EA's tenure of the Star Wars license had absolutely nothing on the golden era of Star Wars games from LucasArts. But things are changing in a big way. We are on the horizon for something special for Star Wars games. EA have 2 more years to take advantage of their exclusive rights for Star Wars games, and they have multiple games already in development. How their exclusive tenure finishes is entirely dependent on whether or not they're going to actually release those games and not cancel them. It's also dependent on whether or not they release the right games, which is probably more important. Small games like Squadrons, it's not going to do EA any favors. Niched games are a surefire way to turn people against you and become disinterested. I mean, all you need to do is take a look at EA Star Wars Twitter page when they post something about Star Wars Squadrons. 99% of the comments are about Battlefront 2, so it's pretty clear what EA have to do. It's just whether or not they're going to do it. So unless there are big releases coming in the next 2 years, then this potential golden age of Star Wars games isn't really going to kick off for another 3 or so years. If Fallen Order 2 comes out and is better or just as good as the first, and if a Battlefront 3 gets greenlit, then I'd say yep. I think that could very well be the start to a new golden era of Star Wars games for sure. Keep in mind, we'd have an open world game following shortly after that, followed by multiple Star Wars games that publishers would be throwing themselves at Lucasfilm Games to make. But I want to make it really clear, there will be no golden era of Star Wars games, again without the Battlefront franchise. Plain and simple. Now, we need to take a look back to understand just how big and great these games from Lucasfilm Games are going to have to be to even rival the OG golden era of LucasArts. Like I said at the start of the video, the competition Lucasfilm Games face is this. Within a few years, they need to release games that rival Kotor 1, Kotor 2, Battlefront 1, Battlefront 2, Jedi Knight Jedi Academy, Republic Commando, Jedi Outcast, Empire at War, LEGO Star Wars, hell, The Force Unleashed. And that's not even getting to all of them. Do you really think the future of Star Wars games can even begin to rival that? Let me know in the comments. Now, games back in those days were cheaper and faster to make. These days, it's more expensive and more development time is needed. So is this even really possible to achieve? Can we realistically see 2 games plus a year and at least half of them maintain the standards set in the LucasArts days? Honestly, it's a tall order, but given how many publishers are out there who are hungry to tell their own story and make their own game in the Star Wars sandbox, I think the quantity side of things is certainly possible, despite games being more expensive to make and taking longer to develop. But as for the quality side of things, that's going to be tough. Keep in mind, LucasArts made a lot of bad games, so we shouldn't expect everything to come from this new era of Star Wars games to be flawless. There's going to be some dud games in there, and that's fine. Now, I've actually seen a lot of people say that the new golden era of Star Wars games has already started with games like Battlefront 2, Jedi Fallen Order, and Star Wars Squadrons, but I also see just as many people, if not more, say that they think the last 5 or so years has been a joke. So, if we have to argue about it, the golden era has not begun, plain and simple. Now, where do I sit in that argument though? What do I think? I think Battlefront 2 right now is a great game, and the stigma that has followed it since launch is something people just need to let go because it's not relevant anymore and it hasn't been for a long time. As for Jedi Fallen Order, that's my favorite Star Wars game. Squadrons wasn't for me, but at the same time I know that it wasn't made for people like me. So when we look back on things in 10 years time, I think maybe we could include the back end of EA's tenure as a part of the new golden age of Star Wars games, provided things do go up from here. Jedi Fallen Order specifically is a great place to start, and with the potential of projects in the works right now with 2023, 2024 games already in the pipeline, we are staring down the barrel of the most content-heavy era of Star Wars games since the prime LucasArts days. But just because there's going to be a lot of games doesn't mean that they're going to be good. So yes, I do think the possibility of us entering a new golden era of Star Wars games is possible, but I don't think we should sit there expecting it to just happen. What LucasArts managed to do in the late 90s to early to mid 2000s was absurd. So many great games within such a small time frame. It's not realistic to expect Lucasfilm Games to be able to replicate that. But it's certainly possible, and either way, I think the next 5 or so years is going to put to shame the past 5 or so years for Star Wars games, and that's all we can really hope for. But I want to know what you guys think of all of this. Do you think we're on the brink of a new golden era of Star Wars games? Do you think it's just impossible to recreate what LucasArts did back in the day? Let me know down in those comments. And if you did enjoy this video, then be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And remember to follow us over on Twitch, where we play Star Wars games and just chat Star Wars games and just chill out. And finally, another big thank you to Frag Pro Shooter for sponsoring this video and keeping the show going. But that's it for me today. Thanks for watching and have a good one.